Podcast, episode number 85. You join myself, Chris, one of your hosts for the day, for the longest Stadia podcast this side of Google Maps. We've got a great show for you lined up this week. We're going to be talking about the Force being with us on Stadia as May the 4th celebration came and went. We've got Judgement coming to Stadia alongside Justice leaving Stadia, and much, much more, all wrapped up into this week's show. But of course, we couldn't do that without my two lovely co-hosts. 1/3 of the three Stadigos himself. Stadigos? I'm going to try something like that. I can't get the quite words right, but we're joined once again by the techie teacher himself, Mr. Tom.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night, everyone, depending on whenever you're listening to this.
And below him, the ever-present returning man of many pixels, Mr. Richie.
I don't know. That hasn't happened to me in like a year.
Wow.
When my mind just went
Richie
blank
got
in the
EXE,
intro.
it's failed.
This is all right. I just want to point out this is Tom's fault because it's Tom's birthday weekend, so he's got things to do this afternoon. So he made us get up at an ungodly hour.
Ungodly hour of 10:30.
Yeah, the ungodly hour of 10:30 a.m.
Sunday.
Wow.
Now, I know a lot of our community out there are parents, and you saying 10:30 is ungodly hour, they're all just right now thinking, fuck you, Richie.
I'm not used to it. I was up till 3 a.m.
Oh, the life of a gamer. But yes, welcome to the Sounds of Stadia Podcast, episode number 85. Like I said, we've got a great show for everyone this week, and we're going to be breaking it all down for you to listen and talk and watch about. If you're new to the channel, do give us a click on that like button down below and subscribe so you are kept in the loop with everything Sounds of Stadia, because we do much more than a weekly podcast available on youtube.com/Sounds of Stadia and podcast services in that digital cloud. But we also do live streams where every week, every Thursday usually around 8 p.m. GMT or BST or whatever time of the year you're listening to this podcast. I know there's been some flurry in the internet this week about time zones and not doing the right things, but we are here, BST, British summertime after all, to bring you all of the news. So we do live streams, we played a lot of games. This past week we played some Formula 1 2020, requested by our community, we should point out. We did a lot of racing in there, some good, some bad. Not so great myself at Formula 1, it turns out. I learned about an hour and a half into the stream to not keep your foot on the acceleration pedal the whole time round. I was
Yeah, he kept running out of fuel. And it's like, I don't know why you're running out of fuel. It's like, are you braking at the same time the accelerator? It's like, yeah.
I literally did not take my finger off the R2 button for the entirety of all the races. So there's a lesson learned. You've got to accelerate, decelerate, brake, go at different times.
This is the man who has the driver's license, everyone.
Yeah, but it's a stick, so it's a little bit different to all this flappy paddle gearbox nonsense. Yeah. But yes, so we played some Formula 1. We had a great time. Some great people in there jumped in and had a race with us. Yesterday played some FIFA 21 with the lovely Chase, the gaming advocate. Go check out his channel where he talks about all consumer advocacy for all things cloud gaming. And I did us proud, gentlemen. Sorry, Chase, if you're listening, but rode out victory. And in the real life fixtures as well, because ironically enough, the two teams we were representing played last night, and it was a draw. It was a 1-1 draw in real life. Yeah. So I'll take the plaudits from the virtual world. And we'll definitely have a rematch in the future when Chase has upped his game a little bit. Ooh. Shots fired indeed. It begins after I definitively know I can win now. That's
the next round.
And much, much more. We do have some exciting live streams planned in for you this next week, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. And of course, you can join the channel as a member if you want to. So, like nearly 40 of you have done so already out there. It's amazing. Thank you very much for all that continued support. Nearly 40 of you support us on the across Patreon and also YouTube membership program, where from as little as 99p you can support the channel and us three gentlemen a little bit more to bring you better Stadia content. But more importantly, you get access to badges next to your name in the YouTube chat. You get access to lovely stickers of our faces wrapped in anime cartoon magic. And more importantly, you do get access to our SideQuest show up to 5 days early, where we talk about a different Stadia subject. Last week, we broke down our best ranked Stadia pro games of all time, and we're currently running a community poll, right, Richie? Who have we got so far? Update the people.
It's more of a series of polls. So basically, what we're doing is every 3 days, every Monday and same Friday, a handful of Stadia pro games. will be going to the poll, and the winner of each round will go on to the next round, and eventually we'll get to an overall winner. At the moment, because I'm still letting the poll number 3 run a bit longer before I take the results, but at the moment, Destiny and Guilt have moved on to the second round.
Have we had any shocks yet, in your opinion?
We've had 2 polls. I think you could argue Guilt, because I think Guilt was up against like Grid, which I thought may have. If I was a betting man, I would have probably thought Grid might have won.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you on that.
But Metro Exodus did quite well in the same poll. But yeah, Guild comfortably won that one.
So if the people listening or watching out there want to make every vote count, as there's like a massive election thing going on in the UK right now, get out there and vote, ladies and gentlemen. Represent yourself for your country and vote for your favourite Stadia Pro game. If you want it to win, you've got to vote. And that's off the back of our SideQuest episode, as I mentioned. So this week we've got another great episode, Richie, where we're going to be talking about
Stadia's pandemic problems.
Ooh, I like it. That's right. We haven't really spoke about that much, but us three, I believe, are on the same page where we believe Stadia could have been very, very different if it wasn't for a massive global pandemic. And we won't go into the negative of like all that, like that kind of stuff, the medical and all the vaccination stuff. We'll purely be focusing on its like marketing impact on Stadia, because it could have been a very different multiverse outcome if that had not happened. And the same goes for a lot of businesses. But we're going to be talking about that, and you can get it up to 5 days early by clicking join on our YouTube channel below on the video version of this podcast. But gentlemen, let's get back to the games. Tom, what you been playing?
Yes. I'm still powering through Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I actually played a little bit more this morning. I 100%ed London, which was a nice little storyline. I quite enjoyed that one, actually. It was also quite a nice change of pace to only have a small area where I could collect everything relatively easily and not have to literally travel so far to get things. So that, I suppose that's one of the reasons why I actually just sort of focused on getting everything done in London, because it was so compact. It was so nice.
A bit easier to get them resources in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even without a tube.
Very true, very true. I did find like navigating some of the streets a little bit annoying though, because there's a lot more obstacles up and down, up and down, up and down.
When there's that thing on your mini map saying like it's right there, and you can't. It's either below. All Ubisoft games do this, and it really bugs me where there's stuff like on a different level, but there's no clear way to get to it, and you end up having to like scan right out to find the entrance, and then you find the entrance and it doesn't lead you to the right spot. You end up going the opposite direction to where you want to go. It gets very frustrating. Just put it on surface level for me.
Absolutely. But once again, I'm still finding myself very detracted from the main storyline. I'm finding myself enjoying some of the side stories. So I've just, now that I've finished the London arc, I've actually decided to take the trip over to Vinland as well now, rather than focusing on going through some of the other places. So be interested to see what happens there. But before I wrap up on what I've been doing, I've also started romancing a certain character in the game that I think is going to probably have a little bit of an impact on the story overall. We'll see how that goes.
I think I know who you're talking about. It's a risky business. Risky business.
Yeah, I think I might know.
So we'll see how that goes.
All of it.
But that's me.
Lovely. How about you, Richie? You've been putting more hours into your JRPGs?
I have. I finally rolled credits in Dragon Quest.
Wow,
I was contemplating going for the true ending, but I decided, it's time to move on. I've been wanting to move on probably for like a week or two at this point. But it's like, clocked in just under 80 hours. And I've moved on to East now.
Okay. So just one massive JRPG to the next.
Well, you have to remember as well, before Dragon Quest, I was playing Bravely Default 2.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
I'm on a massive JRPG binge.
So you're just going to try out a new one every month at this rate?
They're all very different games, so...
Which one would you say you've enjoyed the most so far, then?
So far, I'd say I think I prefer Bravely Default to Dragon Quest. And I haven't got enough into East yet to really compare.
Okay. Interesting stuff.
East has the potential to take the crown, though.
Ooh, interesting. Exciting stuff, because, of course, this is a genre that we didn't really have on Stadia up until last month. Yeah. And then we just got bombarded with loads of them. So, interesting. You can be our resident JRPG go-to guy. He's
I think
80
after
hours.
East, I'm probably going to change genre.
Little bit, little bit of a palate cleanser required, certainly.
A little bit too much anime for one man.
Before we get into our first news story of the week, because it does pertain to that, I've had like a massive Star Wars fix all of a sudden, as expected. I spent some of my days this week playing Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer.
Oh,
nice.
wow.
That game, like, there's some parts of that, like, that game needs a proper remake. I'm playing like the remastered version, but it's not really remastered, guys. Like the texture packs and some of the characters are just like, they're laughable by today's standards. But I tell you what, the John Williams and that musical score, when playing any game, like it could be a Stickman game, and the fact that it's got like Duel of Fates and stuff playing in the background, going through canyons in a pod racer while it's going, it just adds so much like tension to it all. And Sebulba, I did not realise this because I played this on the N64 back in the day. When you go to Sebulba's canteen, he's humming the cantina music. So he's just in his shop going, but he's like, it's Watto humming it, and it's like, Watto. Why did I say Sebulba? It's Watto humming it. Sorry. Yeah, he just does that while you're going through the shop to buy your parts. It is little Easter eggs, but powering through that at the moment, weirdly enough, very, very like, easy game to quickly get into, and I would love a new pod racer game. I know they did Squadrons, but give me pod racing. Like, I think that would have a great online community as well. Like, look at the kart races that do so well. There was a pod racing kart racing game, right, where they had like little bobbleheads.
Oh, Super Bombad Racing.
Yes.
That was a game. That was a kart racer, yeah.
If EA, this would have worked better if before EA like lost like kind of like exclusivity of the license, but they've just bought Codemasters, so they've just bought like the racing game guys. Like they have the Star Wars license. Is it Fate?
The Duel of Fates could be right, but I could digress about Star Wars forever, so we might as well get into the
super sexy special Stadia Stories segment, aka
the news. And seems as though we're on the Star Wars train, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep going with first news story of the week. We theorized it on last week's episode. We spoke about it in more depth when talking about our Stadia Pro games. What was the mystery pro game that was teased on last week's blog going to be? Well, on May the 4th, to much surprise, we didn't think it would tie in with Star Wars, but out of Lightspeed almost, we got Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order from Respawn Entertainment free as our extra pro game for the month of May. Awesome stuff. That's crazy.
I think it was one of them. We kind of theorised it is the potential behind it, but I don't think any of us were convinced by it. I think we were all like, nah, it's going to be Arc. It's going to be later in the month.
Yeah.
No,
I even tweeted out saying like, oh, it's like, part of me was like, please be Jedi Fallen Order, but then I tweeted out saying, oh, it's surely Arc, right? It's Arc, right? It's due at the end of May for the DLC and stuff, and there's all these other theories. But yeah, Jedi Fallen Order, like Tom, Richie, myself, we've all finished this game elsewhere, and I bought it on Stadia, so I already owned it, I just never jumped in and played it.
That must sting a little bit. It's like, I bought this game, I want to play it again at some time, then when it comes to Pro before you get chance to
in a way, but unlike some Pro games where they come out and then 2 weeks later they go Pro, I bought this like months ago now, with a sale discounts. I think I only paid £21 or whatever it was. But like Tom said, this was one that I wanted to support. EA would have been the first one. It was like, look, yes, I want it on this system. I want to see how good it looks, and I was just in a mixture of Ubisoft games at the time. Now I actually sat down and played it this week, because we should also mention there is our live stream for Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. That's available now. We played through the first 2 planets. We went to Mustafar and was it Bagona?
Dathomir, not Mustafar.
Oh yeah, it was Dathomir, right. I have to go to Dathomir Fest, as the Stadia Twitter page recommends. But yeah, awesome news. Wow. Like, in amongst all the Star Wars stories, it was quite a quiet May the 4th in terms of Star Wars content. It didn't really put out as much. Like, we knew about Bad Batch. I've watched that. That's quite decent so far. Fallen Order news. I was expecting some big like movie announcements and stuff, and
Did you see the reveal of the Galactic Star Cruiser lightsaber?
Oh, from
That
Disney.
was pretty cool.
Disney World.
Yeah, the actual. So I knew about the patent. I mean, we're turning into a Star Wars podcast at this point, right?
Yeah.
But they obviously they filed a patent recently for what's supposed to be like a toy lightsaber, but a realistic toy lightsaber. So rather than having like a screw-on blade, what this is if you imagine like a magnetic tape measure, metallic, not magnetic. That will fire up, and it's got like LED strips with it as well, so it actually fully retracts. Which I saw that, and I was just like, "Wow, this is getting a bit real now. This is getting a bit real."
I mean, as children, we all had goes with those ones that was just the 3 tubes that came out.
Oh yes,
and they always fell out, or they got bent, or they never retracted properly.
They got bent straight away because the plastic was so thin and hollow. You'd have a joke. Broke my lightsaber.
Yeah, it just turns into this floppy, silly, weird thing.
Yeah. Or just the hilt, because you've lost the actual planet. Oh, the hilt is quite cool in its own, but you look a bit daft going. And it's just like the little bulb from inside. It just becomes a glorified torch at that point.
Yeah.
Why don't people sell more torches that look like lightsabers?
It's a good question. Get on it. Let's add some merch.
Get on it, Black & Decker. I want to see a proper torch lightsaber combo with Star Wars.
Yeah.
But, of course, we digress, as we can with all massive franchises. But great news for Stadia. Great news for anyone who's not bought the game. What a May the 4th to find out that you can play like a AAA, arguably one of the best Star Wars games ever, for free. On top of Stadia Pro.
I'd completely agree with that statement. And I actually think last week we talked about sort of our apprehension over the announcement of the Pro games for May. That massively redeemed May. That redeemed it and pushed it way ahead of even Resident Evil 7, in my opinion. Like, I think it's such a good get. It's so statement breaking, that is, because it's just like, it's not available for free on any other platform anywhere. So, anybody who wants to play the game who hasn't yet bought it could literally just sign up to Stadia with a Gmail account and get 1 month of Pro for free to get Jedi Fallen Order for free, immediately.
The thing is, I did see in the Facebook group a few people moaning, like, "Oh, I wish they'd just done a sale like they've done on other platforms. Like, what about those who don't have Stadia Pro?" And to the credit of some of the Facebook groups, there's loads of people going, "Just get Stadia Pro for a month."
It's literally, you could either.
It's
I think
cheaper
it was what?
than the sale you're asking to have.
Yeah, the game was like $10.25 on other platforms or something like that.
Yeah.
But Pro is like $8.99. It's do the maths. Come on, seriously, 1 month of Pro.
If it takes you 2 months to complete the game, you're still in profit.
It's just
It's you're totally right, Tom. It did. Like we said on last week's podcast, like it was hard to really get excited about them. Like Trine 4, probably the biggest game out of them. Hotline Miami 2, it's an older game, but it's more Hotline Miami. Floor Kids, all the poor bastards who bought it 2 weeks prior when it came out, then got screwed over by Pro.
Rip.
However, not the biggest game that's going to call like when you're comparing Floor Kids to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, they are literally on different planets,
different galaxies.
It's like that. But you're right. Like that elevates May to
are actually quite far away from each other.
Oh, Richie, just
wow.
stop. But yeah, May's an awesome month, and it kind of sets an interesting precedent for Pro going forward. So now this shows that Stadia have quite a good working relationship. Well, they did, but a stronger working relationship with EA. We've always said it was about Ubisoft, but we've not seen a Ubisoft game on Pro for obvious plus reasons whenever it becomes available to everyone else.
Yeah, we've had a lot of Ubisoft sales on Pro, so that seems to be the route Ubisoft prefer.
Yeah,
which is fine.
Yeah, I mean they do sales non-stop across everything. If you are a patient gamer, Ubisoft is amazing for you, because if you wait like a year, you can pick up like last year's. It's like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm pretty sure I've seen down to like just over £20 at this point, and it only came out November last year. That's like just over half a year ago. So if you're patient, it's well worth it. But yeah, EA, we're still waiting on those 2 mystery games, of course. But the fact that we got this for Pro either means Google are throwing the cash around a little bit more, or EA have this could bode well going forward into the future. So exciting stuff. And hopefully, gentlemen, this is now going. I think it could also be from EA's part a good play to get people hyped for a sequel.
Yeah,
because that announcement must be on the horizon soon. You've got to imagine they've got the engine. Respawn have been working away on a sequel probably immediately once this one was signed off, because there was no way they got to the end of this game and didn't think, it was going to do well, like surely, like even by EA's standard. Which they did announce this past week. Did you see the top 10 best-selling Star Wars games of all time? And Fallen Order, Battlefront the remake, and Battlefront 2 the remake are all in the top 5. So
it's almost as if fans have been crying out for a single-player narrative-driven Star Wars game for a long time, and kept getting half-ass attempts. I'm looking at you, Battlefront, and then they bring out one that is no, this is just a single-player narrative-driven game, and it was awesome. And everyone went, "Yep, I'll have that, please."
Yep.
I mean, prior to this, what did we get?
Take
was
my
it the
credits.
Force Unleashed?
Force Unleashed, yeah,
the
1 and
last
2.
single-player, fully story-driven Star Wars game. Yeah,
Even they're good in their own right as well.
they are not canon anymore in any way whatsoever. But
Yeah, they're not
having
having.
Force Unleashed games.
Oh, Richie, Force Unleashed games are so good. It's Darth Vader's apprentice.
yeah,
Like that's so cool. He's called Starkiller.
just like
that
Starkiller
makes
Base. Episode
Yeah.
10.
Oh, the original name for Luke Starkiller.
Oh, there you go. Oh, yeah, of course it was. Yeah.
Star Wars knowledge, folks.
The Starkiller saga doesn't quite have the same marketing ring to it, does it?
It does sound a lot darker.
Sounds
than
all these
Skywalker.
kids, Mum,
Well,
Dad.
it was meant to be, wasn't the original
Yeah.
in the original drafts? Luke meant to turn out the dark side, and like wasn't like an original draft where Luke, after he takes off Vader's helmet, puts it on himself.
Oh, and then turns, and then realizes the helmet's too big for him, and he's like wobbling about like a bobblehead.
Yeah,
But
realizes all this machinery in there.
yeah, I can't see out of this thing. How do you even work it? But yes, exciting times. Hopefully, a sequel soon. But speaking of the dark side, we will move over to story number 2 for the week. Resident Evil Village has launched on Stadia. Gentlemen, have you received your pre-order email yet?
I have. I'll be receiving my premiere edition tomorrow,
Same
or
here.
the time of podcast releases the same day.
And Richie, you too?
Yep,
Awesome.
exactly the same.
So that's 3 additional premiere editions out into the wild on the back of the Resident Evil Village launch and pre-order process. Interestingly enough, sorry, got my words mixed up. I wasn't expecting to get the code until I'd played the game for a few hours. I thought there was like a safety catch for Stadia where if I didn't boot the game up and play it, so I couldn't refund it. Like now I could refund it in theory and then get a free Premiere Edition. Or do you think they've got like kill switches in the packages now where it's like if you refund this now while it's in transit, the box pops with blue dye everywhere.
Because it's just a discount code, so like you're taught like using it on a completely different arm of Google, really. Mm-hmm. Like that order's fulfilled. Like once it
there's certainly. I'm joking about the exploding packages, by the way, Rich.
Oh yeah, I mean you could. I didn't realize you got an actual exploding package. I was thought more of like they just cancel the
Oh, you were thinking
order.
more real world.
Yeah.
No.
I did notice that the in the email with the link, the code was actually in the email. So my thoughts would be, I wonder whether you could actually give that code to somebody else to order one on the store instead.
Yeah,
whether that actually works, or whether it's got to be tied to your Stadia Pro account, like to your Stadia account.
Yeah, actually, now I'm saying it out loud. I'm pretty sure in the initial pre-order there is terms and conditions that say if you refund the game, you'll be charged for the Premiere Edition.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now
right.
I'm saying out loud, I'm pretty sure that was like one of the first or second paragraphs in like the initial stuff. Because when we were all
they're
scouring,
learning the lesson.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be people out there who are like, ha ha ha! I've made 50 Google Stadia accounts on Gmail, and I'm ordering 50 Premiere Editions. I want to be a scalper, and then backfires on them massively.
Scalping.
Google is sitting there scalping
That's not
them
good
back.
scalping.
That's not good scalping.
They're not exactly hard to come by. The Premier Editions.
That is true. But speaking of Resident Evil Village, then it's launched to much fanfare around the entire globe. It's currently sitting with a Metacritic score of 84, which is good, which is in the green. It's nice with a user score of 8.7, so it's generally favourable amongst players. And I can't say that I'm surprised. I've read some of the early reviews, and there's a few people saying it's not quite as good as 7. Which I really, really enjoyed playing through. Yeah. However, it is kind of more of the same. Ethan Winters, still probably one of the worst protagonists of the series, just because he's like he doesn't say anything.
He's a blank slate character.
Yeah.
He's a conduit between you and the game. That's what he is.
Yeah. That's a good description of it, Richie. But out there, surprised, happy with the reviews, definitely. The game doesn't seem as long as I was expecting, actually. One of our friends finished it in 7 hours, or just under 7 hours, I should say, which I'm surprised at. However, depending on how you play, that's like, as we found, if someone who explores
20 hours for us.
if someone who explores every little like nook and cranny, it's going to take a little bit longer. But happy with Village. Either of you two started it yet?
Putting it up to the title sequence. I've said it before on the podcast. I have this weird thing about having to boot games up just to get through that annoying little pop up. So putting it up to the title sequence. Haven't had a chance to try it out yet, but sort of waiting to get through. Like I say, once again, the backlog of games. I'll get there eventually with it. But I'm seeing some nice initial reviews coming through, like you said as well. I've been keeping my eye quite closely on them. Definitely seems to be toned down in terms of the scare factor from 7.
Yeah,
and it's more of a mix of 7 meets 4.
I've heard some some like interesting theories that speculation that it was actually toned down intentionally from 7 because apparently 7 was too scary for a lot of like. So I think they've toned it down a bit to make a bit more mass market. And let's be fair, I don't think werewolves are that scary, to be honest.
They're just big dogs.
They're more like it's more like action horror rather than creepy horror, which is what 7 had a lot going for it with the molded.
Yeah, when we played the demo the other week, Richie, the Lycans who you're introduced to very, very early. I wasn't scared as much as like the dark caverns with the molded dropping out of the ceiling. Definitely had that impact, but. In terms of like sales, I think it's broke records for concurrent players on Steam already, and it just seems to be doing generally well. And I think we should probably highlight kudos to Stadia for dropping that money and getting this port across, because let's face it, this would be a very different podcast episode right now if everyone else in the world was talking and playing about this new AAA game that's came out, and we're sat here with Floor Kids, Trine 4 and a bunch of smaller titles. Arguably, we still may be buzzing about the Jedi Fallen Order news. However, if we didn't have this game to play this month, I think the slate for big games on Stadia would be looking a lot slimmer. So credit where credit's due, and hopefully everyone can go out and enjoy it. And if it is a bit more action oriented, maybe that'll pull a few more people in who otherwise would have been put off by the horror, because I think both you and me, Richie, I'm not sure about you, Tom, for your history with horror games, but I generally, by rule of thumb, never used to play them because I don't like being scared on my own.
Yeah. There's a few things that I'm willing to do in front of a camera, on stream and so on, but in the privacy of my own home by myself, or even amongst like a small group of people, maybe like 2 or 3, I still don't feel that comfortable doing it. I just don't clip this. I don't have the balls for it. Onlyfans.com/Adaxis available now. Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen.
Excellent. Wonderful stuff. And we should probably point out, I just realised I said wonderful stuff for you talking about whatever you do in a room on your own, Tom.
Absolutely. Well.
Each to their own. Yes, so Resident Evil Village, back to the stories, Chris. This week we will be playing Resident Evil Village as part of a double bill live stream this coming week. So if you enjoyed our Resident Evil 7 Biohazard live stream, we will be playing Village for your enjoyment and our scares this Wednesday, 8 PM BST time. And we're going to follow that up on our regular Thursday slot as well. So we'd love to see you in the chat, playing along with us, helping us out with the puzzles. Hopefully there's more of those light puzzles, Richie, that you love so much with the silhouettes.
Use the coin.
That was such a good... That was so funny. So funny. Hopefully we'll get more moments like that. But good to see Village out. It's out there in the wild. And we'll be talking about it a little bit more. But... let's move on to story number 3 for the week. Now, this is one of those games where, by rule of thumb here at Sounds of Stadia, we say that if a game is big enough and it's got links to Stadia through previous installments or studios or publishers or any relationship of that sort, we should acknowledge its existence when it comes out in the news. We're not going to just ignore it until it's suddenly announced and then we've missed out on 3 months' worth of talking about a new game. In this regard, I'm talking about Lost Judgement. Just announced by Sega this past week, coming out September 24th. It is a sequel to the Yakuza spin-off Judgement, which we just got a conveniently remade title. Came out on Stadia. They dropped a trailer for it. I guess question number one, gentlemen. I'll throw it over to you first, Tom. Is this coming to Stadia? What's your theories regarding it?
It's always the age-old question to ask, isn't it, really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we received Judgement, so there was some sort of deal put in place there with the likes of Sega to get the game to the platform, which, first of all, I have to say, like, in terms of performance, I'm seeing a lot of people, having not played it myself, a lot of people out there are saying that it performs really, really well on Stadia once again. So, huge shout out to the service once more for being able to uphold their end of the performance, really. I feel like it's got to be on the cards, right? Because if it's a direct sequel to the game, it would seem a little bit strange for us to not get Lost Judgment following only just receiving Judgment. As to whether it'll come day and date, probably not.
You don't think?
No, I don't. I still think with some titles, I can sort of see it happening now. I can see it happening with really big AAA titles, but when you're sort of like, I don't want to say digging to the bottom of the barrel of AAAs, but when you're sort of like going down a path which is a little bit more niche, I wouldn't say this is the kind of game that a lot of people would go out of their way to buy. That being said, we've said before that we're quite surprised by the amount of people who do like the Yakuza series and have enjoyed Judgment.
Yeah.
There is scope for it, but I still feel like there are some games that may be slightly more delayed as opposed to being day and date, which for certain titles, I would say that cannot happen. But for this, I don't know. I don't see it being like it wouldn't be something that I would purchase day one. So yes, it'll come to the platform, but I don't think it's going to come day and date.
Interesting tidbit then that I'll throw out to you. It's been announced for PS5, for PS4, Series X, S, Xbox One. No word on a PC version yet. Could Stadia be that PC exclusive equivalent?
That's an interesting thought.
So it's not on Steam, it's not on Epic, but if it comes to Stadia, that means every PC player technically could just play it on the PC via Stadia, and it could be an interesting marketing beat that, in all honesty, would probably piss off more PC players than it would encourage them to buy the game on Stadia. But, again, Stadia sits in this weird space, we know, between console and PC and cloud, where it exists everywhere, so the rollout could be very, very different. And when they say console exclusive, we've said before with like maybe the Final Fantasy entries, that when it's exclusive to PS5, where does Stadia sit in that realm of locking it to console, because it's not really a console? So some interesting stuff. Do you think that makes it any more likely, Richie, that we're going to see it with PC being omitted?
There is actually a PC Gamer article that actually confirms that it's not coming to PC at this time. So it's possible for the future, which is, I kind of think that's where it is with Stadia, because I think a lot of publishers do view Stadia in more of the PC bracket at the moment. For me, I think it largely depends on the sales of Judgement, to be honest. It might be a case of once it hits a certain threshold, it will come. But
interesting.
I could see that's out the way the deal working. If like Sega, because I'm guessing Sega and Google they've definitely talked about this title.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if they went, okay, what we'll do is we'll port Judgement over, and if we think there's enough interest in your platform, then you'll get the sequel as well.
Well, that's
guessing probably hasn't hit that yet, which might be why it's not.
I mean, these decisions have to be made well ahead of time, right? There's no way they're waiting to see what Judgment remastered numbers do before greenlighting this, unless we get it, because it's going to be very late.
The game will have been greenlit for like Xbox and PlayStation, so it's a case of, is it worth us putting the effort into the port? Let's test the game out. First.
I think what we've got to remember is the fact that Judgment came to Stadia later than it came out to other platforms as well. So, it has had less time to sort of brew on the platform and to garner that interest first. But did it hit the window where it could pick up enough hype to get people to purchase the game in order to generate those numbers in the first place? I'm not 100% certain. But like you said, I think it's definitely one that the conversation should have happened. There's only 4 months to go before it's out.
It depends on your expectations for the port, because if your expectations are, it's a fairly niche game, especially in the West. What numbers are we realistically talking about? Stadia is a smaller platform, so the numbers are not probably going to be. I wouldn't imagine anything insanely extravagant, but I'd imagine for Sega they're looking at it going, because to port the game over will cost Sega money. They want to make a return on that, and then it's also time away from other projects potentially for some of their developers.
Yeah, this is, in my opinion, where Stadia need to do the exact same moves they did with Resident Evil. They dropped some money, they got 7, built up hype, now we have Village. Sega did Judgement, Google dropped some money, now we get Lost Judgment, the sequel. I think they need to they honestly need to just open their book up a little bit regards to this, because again, Lost Judgment coming out several months after the fact isn't going to benefit anyone. Doesn't benefit Stadia, doesn't benefit the player because they've probably already played it elsewhere. All you're going to get is the scraps that are left over from anyone who didn't check it out, anyone who's curious, or anyone who maybe picks it up as a pro deal discount or something like that. So I think there's a window of opportunity, and I'd like to be open-minded and positive, thinking that actually we need to start getting these games day and date. Like, how old does Stadia need to be? Does it 2 years, 3 years before it starts getting everything standardised as day and date? And it needs to start making those moves sooner rather than later, otherwise there may not be a later.
Yeah, a lot of this does come down to money. It's like, I don't think Lost Judgment is a system seller.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
agreed.
That's exactly where I
go. How much are Google willing to throw at it? Which is where with Resident Evil Village, that can be a system seller. I think Google looked at this can be. This has got the potential for like a Game of the Year candidate. Let's throw a bag of cash at Capcom to get it. With Yakuza, it's like, okay, we'll throw a bag of cash, but it's probably going to be a bit of a smaller cash, and there's probably going to be a few more caveats around. That's why I think there might be a performance thing. How well is Judgment performing before like any final decisions made in Lost Judgment? And we know like Stadia like to play things close to the chest and release things last minute. So
yeah, we'll find out September.
Yeah, I think there's just some concerns over like where again do we draw the line with Google paying out for things like that? Because there's got to be a point where I can't specifically see the likes of Sony or Microsoft having to pay out to say like, oh, we want exclusivity for a game like Lost Judgment, because we know that's not happening. But it's just
that's true. But if anyone's been following the recent like Epic versus Apple court cases, we know Epic have been throwing loads of money at it, because when you're the up and comer, you have to go out of pocket. Like every game developer wants the games on PlayStation, they want on Xbox because of the huge install base. When you've got a smaller install base, the platform holder has to do something to get the games there to entice people onto the platform, and usually the answer is actually just money.
That's a good argument. I didn't consider that point.
Yeah, well, we'll be getting more into that as the news stories go through, because we are going to be touching on the Epic and Apple trial, because it's bringing out some tasty news stories regarding like a peek behind the curtain of gaming that we don't otherwise see. But yeah, Lost Judgment, hopefully, day and date. Again, I don't want to approach this with a case of I don't think we're getting it. I think we definitely will. It's just a matter of probably when.
Yeah, I'd say it's more of a when.
Yeah. So, well, speaking of when, then, let's move on to story number 4. Ubisoft announced this week a new free-to-play game living in Tom Clancy's world of The Division, titled The Division Heartland. So they gave us kind of like an updated roadmap of everything that it looks like, and the almost like the timeline of The Division, Division 2, the Warlords DLC. And yeah, gentlemen, so we're getting a free-to-play Division game, which it's a standalone. Doesn't require. They've actively said it doesn't require any previous experience. Pardon me, with the series, and it's going to give a new perspective on the universe in a new setting. Again, coming to Windows, PC, and the cloud. Good. So that's Luna and Stadia, right?
Yeah. Surely.
Yeah, I can see this being on Ubisoft Plus. So
yeah,
wherever Ubisoft Plus is, it will be
wherever it goes.
And that might be the lure right there. That might be the bait for it going free to play, is the fact that actually no, that's a tricky one then, because it's not necessarily free to play.
Yeah,
if you have to pay for Ubisoft Plus. So
it could be an for Ubisoft Plus.
Maybe there's some sort of like Premier Pass or something with it, perhaps.
I think it could be play the game on Stadia like Destiny, free to play.
Yeah.
And if you play the game, that gives you a discount in for Ubisoft Plus trial. It's like, oh, you've enjoyed Heartlands. If you want to play Division 2, Warlock, like every other Tom Clancy IP that they do, you get 3 months free of Ubisoft Plus for playing Heartlands. Something like that. There's got to be a way in. There's always an in.
Isn't the gaming landscape changing so dramatically that we have to have discussions like this?
It's crazy. Like with Game Pass doing their own thing, and like we said, Epic we're going to talk about shortly, and free to play games were not a thing last generation. I mean, they were, but they were never like the behemoths they are now, where they make more money than paid for games, which is it's the opposite of business. That's not how it should work. Yeah. It's like
it's because we've moved over to more like these persistent online games.
Yeah.
People are sticking with the same game for a long period of time. If if you just paid $60 for Fortnite, they made $60, and then the game's how many years they've made the money. That's it. Apart from new players coming in, where if you find a way of monetizing in a different route, one, it's more accessible for people, especially when it comes to multiplayer titles, because you can just jump in, give it a go. I like the game, I'm going to stick around, and then you start buying things like the battle passes and stuff.
Yeah,
and then it's going to be interesting to see how they monetize this game, because no game is ever truly free to play.
Nope.
There'll be a way of monetizing it somehow.
Nothing in life is truly free.
But because we don't really know much about the game, it's hard to say what sort of model they're going to use.
My guess is it's just going to be more Division. I can't see them straying too far away from like the duck and cover mechanics and the shooting and the getting the loot.
Actually,
do you not think that would just put off other like people who like the Division though? Like, who's your audience then if it's not going to be like the Division?
I don't think it's going to be miles away from the Division, but I don't think it's going to be, because if this was just basically Division 2 again, then they've already got Division 2 and they continue to support it. So there's got to be something unique and different to this game.
I feel like this could be a reaction to the support the Division 2 has had. Like, we know Ubisoft was starting to wind down on that, and then they've had such a player influx and support. They've announced like a new roadmap for new DLC. They actively came out and said, look, we were at the end of our plans, but because you guys love it so much, we're adding another year of content on, which they hadn't even started on at the time. So clearly it's making enough money for Ubisoft to turn their head and look at it a little bit more and thinking, do we go all in with a third entry in the series? Or, like, look at Destiny. Like, Destiny just smashes out of the park with every new content drop. And that game is like 8-year-old at this point, right? And it's just continuously thriving. This is what every studio wants.
Yeah, Destiny's already fallen into the World of Warcraft, the kind of style of game. I think Bungie finally admitted that to an MMO. Basically, I don't think there's going to be a Destiny 3. I think it's just me Destiny 2, and they just keep expanding on
Destiny.
Which is great. Yeah. I've said before many times, I'd love like Star Wars Battlefront to have done that and just become a perpetual world where they get new content through seasonal and tie-in stuff with the movies. Like,
it's a good model.
Yeah, like May the 4th should have had a Bad Batch Battlefront DLC where you play as all the troopers from the Bad Batch, and yet it doesn't, because there's no perpetual world to live in.
I feel like a lot of developers should really start looking to models like the Hitman model, really, and just having like just an inclusive sort of launcher, really, in a way.
I think the trick is you have to have enough content and have the content replayable enough to keep people going back for the lulls.
Yeah,
because you might get a 6-month or 1-year lull between big content drops. You've got to keep your player base engaged in that time, otherwise the game dies.
Avengers.
Yeah.
Like, the gaps in that. But, like, I go back for all the content, but you're right, Richie. Like, I play the DLC with a new character, and then I bounce for, like, several weeks, months at a time. And I'll go back when Black Panther's out, but that's not till summer.
I've been very critical of Avengers. I think it's a fun game, but I think the multiplayer is kind of bare bones at best. Like, I don't find it engaging. Like, no. There's nothing in that multiplayer apart from the occasional new content drop, new character that makes me want to go back. But when we do go back, it's like I don't care about leveling up any of my characters because it just feels meaningless.
You just want to play the story, play that little bit of the DLC arc, and then leave it. I have no reason to push them to 50 or beyond. At that point.
Correct point. So, Division. Tom Clancy's The Division Heartlands will be out. So, no doubt we'll see some at E3. Ubisoft have a presence there. they've announced it now, so it makes sense they're going to go big on what it is.
Yeah, we'll see a trailer, I reckon.
Yeah, I agree. At the moment, all they've done is put out the graphic with the timeline. They announced a Netflix show as well, if I'm right in recalling that.
They did. Yeah.
That could be really cool.
Which, it doesn't really take much to believe that Netflix would benefit from like a gritty. It maybe hits too close to home right now with the whole the dollar virus thing spreading, but
nah, just bring it.
I guess we'll see.
You can't just keep dropping on, not stopping on these cool ideas that existed before the pandemic because of the pandemic.
Yeah,
just do it.
Maybe it's kind of like that morbid curiosity, you know, like when we started getting we get all the movies that come out as like biopics or like documentaries, like a take on what like real life events that always come out after like any big global incidents that happen. There's always money to be made off the back of it, where it's like based on a true story. Very loosely, but based on a true story enough to get a marketing beat in place to pull people in who are curious about the events. And yeah, like let's face it, this 2020 is going to be its own movie series, Netflix documentaries in the history books. I mean, we got a 2012, Tom, so 2020 is not hard
That's true.
to believe. Yeah. Not a bad movie, 2012. Terrible name in hindsight. But leading up to the Mayan calendar event that it was, looks like they got that one wrong. Anyway, moving on from the Division Heartland, then we'll swing over to a game that we should be expecting on Stadia pretty soon. Looks like a PUBG, I don't want to say a rip-off, but inspired game.
Are we actually getting Fortnite?
No.
With animals?
No, it's Fortnite with animals.
They have used the Fortnite font as well.
Is it the Fortnite font? I thought it was the...
I'm pretty sure it's the Fortnite
font. I thought PUBG because of the white banner, but for audio listeners, it's Super Animal Royale.
With cheese.
With cheese. Yes, coming to Stadia, by part of Poppyworks Studios. They're also the guys who did Ari and the Secret of Seasons and Rock of Ages 3, Chris Tales, and Street Power Football. So they've got quite a good working relationship with Stadia in terms of their ports. It was listed a while back, and I know the guys are at Stadia Source. Go check them out for all your Stadia news and reviews. Listed it's coming to a couple of different platforms, and Stadia being one of them. So they reached out. It's published by Modus Games, which again we know have a good working relationship with Stadia. Many titles out on the platform from that. This title, gentlemen, it's very much in the realm of a battle royale, but you are little cartoon animals. Due out June 1st, so not too long to wait.
Not at all. No.
What do we think? Free pro game or?
I was thinking with it June the 1st. This is a pro game written all over it, and I can't wait. It's going to be hilarious.
I have a feeling this is going to be one of Chris's favorite twin stick shooters. It just looks fun, doesn't it? It looks fun. It looks harmless.
A battle royale twin stick shooter that doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah. I actually quite like the if you watch the trailer of this, it's literally just animals dropping into an arena, picking up weapons as you would in a battle royale game, and just gunning the ever living daylights out of each other until there's only one winner. I like it. I think it's fun. I think it could do all right. It could do all right.
It strikes me as one of those indie games that on the surface you look at it and go, it's just another cartoon indie game. But then it's got this interesting, like, quirky take on it where everyone's having fun in like Animal World, and then all of a sudden like mass murder starts happening, and everyone. I think that moment from a marketing lens, you suddenly realise that this isn't just like a kids' TV show. It's got that like undercurrent of violence to it that makes it seem totally different from what you would expect. Do the winning dance or die is one of the quotes from it. Some of the weapons look really cool as well. You can ride an emu. You can go inside a giant hamster ball. These must be like special perks. And it looks quirky to say the least. And I think I'm with you, Richie. June 1st, pro game written all over it.
Interesting.
Has a twin stick shooter been made into a battle royale yet? God, this is the first. Because I mean, we've had all sorts of the battle royale treatment, everything from Tetris to Fortnite.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
Quite possibly could be a good shout on that one. So yes, not long to wait though. We'll probably hear some more news about it soon as well. Looks like in a tweet as well, the game has been explained to have both cross save and cross play.
I hope they have 32 and 64 player sort of scenarios as well, where it's not just like 4-player or 8-player or something. I want to see it go big. Let's get some big maps open.
I want to see 200 very little critters in the map going to town on each other with shotguns.
I think my only concern with games like this is you have to label it as an indie because of the scope of the studio who's actually creating it. I just hope that it doesn't get limited by what is defined as being an indie in the sense of like the scale of it or the scope of it, because I think with enough input and with enough sort of a large enough player base, you could actually make something quite fun out of that.
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to the marketing, how it's marketing and who the marketing hits.
Yeah,
because I think if you're 13, you don't care really that much. Do you care that much if a game's in India or not, if all your friends are playing it?
Very true. Same could be said about any game,
yeah.
But notable. So not long to wait until we hear more about that exciting title, I guess, coming up in the near future. Pivoting away from games then, gentlemen, we did have some news this week about staffing issues over at Google Stadia. John Justice and a couple of other individuals have left. Some have made new homes at Haven Studios with Jade Raymond. We knew we kind of anticipated that when she left, she would naturally take several of her team members with her. It makes sense, right? If we all worked together and then I got a new job at my own studio and I was in charge, I would naturally go, Tom, Richie, get over here, help me out. Like, I can give you money and a secure job with PlayStation. Come work for me. Like, that makes sense.
This is one of them stories that I'm glad we have a couple of days to percolate on before we jump straight in, because I think if you sit down and think about it, Stadia Games and Entertainment was closed, so all the developers who moved there to make games for Stadia are no longer making games. I know they're working for Google still, they were just kicked out the door, like, oh, find yourself a new thing. Jade Raymond starts up this new studio, and bear in mind, these are people that she hired, this is the team that she formed, and just go, okay, yeah, we'll just go with you. It just makes sense. This is just the next chapter in the Stadia Games and Entertainment closure. Yeah. So if anyone's thinking about, oh my god, there's so many loads of departures, like, this was always going to happen as soon as they closed Stadia Games and Entertainment. All these game developers who probably just doing whatever they've been doing in different departments at Google, they're game developers in the end of the day. They want to go back into games.
Yeah, Stadia said that's what's happened. Yeah, Stadia said that they'll try and find the positions within Google, but the reality is, if they're not going to like suddenly switch to making like a Play Store game or like helping them make Google Docs or anything like that, they were always going to look to their next step in their career, which is within games development.
Tom can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's a million miles off from game development to like just general software development.
It is and it is. Like, the skill set can be transferred, but again, it's the application of it, like most things, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said before, so former product head John Justice has essentially left the Stadia team now. He's already moved over. He's joined Facebook, so you can see that on his LinkedIn profile. That's, it's public information. I don't think people need to read too much into this. I think it's part and parcel of where your career takes you, really. People don't always stay at the same firm forever, regardless. Unless
it might just be a case of, with John Justice, it's job done. He came in for a specific reason. Cause I think it was already like December. It was announced that his duties were getting wound down a bit anyway. It might just be, this might literally just be a case of what he joined Stadia to do, because he was product development, wasn't he?
He was, yeah, he was. But in terms of his actual sort of like employment at Google in general, he was considered a vice president of Google. So I think his role within Stadia's sort of inauguration and its first year and building up towards where it is currently is as you say, job done, really.
Yeah. I think you touched on a good point there, Tom, which I tweeted out about as well, to kind of not stop, like, fan the flames or anything like that, but my approach to this was, he's left. Is this going to be big clickbait title headline? Any way to bring up the Stadia Games Entertainment closure once again in the news, because it's the only story that news outlets can seem to cling on to. Oh, this guy's left Stadia, off the back of, and then repeat the same article they recycled from February.
Yeah.
But my big thing, and I'll ask anyone who's watching or viewing right now, is it's business. People leave jobs. People progress their careers. I don't know about you two, but I certainly am in a different role now than I was several years ago. And
completely different.
That's the nature of it.
I'm in a completely different field of employment. So it's fine.
Exactly. And anyone listening or watching out there, like, look at just to yourself and your own colleagues. The team you are in now at work is probably very different than it was last year, the year before that. And we should all be pushing to better ourselves anyway. So we don't know what's happening with John in his personal life. So Facebook could have headhunted him and approached him and said, we'll give you double the pay to come and work on this new project. He's only human. He's only human.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he could want to go work for that. But at the end of the day, back to what you alluded to, Tom, he might just think that's job done. I'm looking for something next in my career. We mentioned that these game developers and creative types, they're always looking to do something different every step of their career pathway. So it's no surprise that these people move on and do different things. But we shouldn't read too much into it, like, oh, he's out because he thinks everything's failing. I was like, maybe he's just... for all we know, something's happened with his family, where he's wanted to move back home to where his parents are, his friends, or...
He's exhausted his particular skill set on, the product of Stadia, because at the end of the day, he was employed by Google. He's left Google. I think people need to stop focusing on the label of Stadia in particular and just remember that Google is a bigger company than that. He's not moved to another arm of Google. He has left Google.
Maybe as his involvement in Stadia is winding down once the platform was launched, the platform works, absolutely. There's not a huge amount for him to do there. Maybe he just found himself almost because he's doing more stuff for Google. It's like, this is a massive corporation, and it's just although I'm a vice president, I'm one of many vice presidents, and it's almost a watered down role when he's not working Google stuff.
Yeah.
Facebook come with a big bag of cash and go, well, we're trying to get game services off the ground. Do you want to come over?
Yeah, do you want to help us out with Facebook Cloud Gaming? And then they take his skill set there. And I think that's sort of about it, really. We already know that the scope of what Stadia is going to be has sort of changed. It's sort of evolving over time because, with the closure of SG&E and so on, it's natural that it's diverting its path and it's going down a different route, but it's still the Stadia that we know and love and use on a daily basis. Nothing has changed by the departure of one person. It just means that now there's potentially more, more scope for some product change that might happen, or maybe even here's a bit of speculation for you, but maybe even Phil or other members of the team were just not quite happy with the pace that it was changing at and just decided, look, we need to take a different path here. We just need to possibly inject some new ideas and some new creativity into this. So thank you for your work, John. But let's just wrap up what we were doing. It could just be like that.
I honestly could see a world where, whatever next big announcements we get, I wouldn't even be surprised if Phil Harrison's gone. And Google just totally want to shake things up. They want to get a new team in and say, right, let's just change our direction. We need someone new. Let's go.
Might not be a bad idea. It might not be a bad idea. It's if they bring in a new head of Stadia, replace Phil Harrison, get Reggie Fils-Aimé in.
Oh, could you imagine?
Reggie.
Yeah,
could you imagine?
But
partnership with Nintendo.
I think his loyalty to Nintendo is probably a bit too much for that.
Yeah,
but.
Hey, he did step in and try and help out GameSpot, wasn't it? He stepped in as an executive director, just I've got some free time. Yeah, I'll try and help you guys out. I think he's since left that role, but money talks. Money talks.
But I almost think sometimes when you hear people talk about Phil Harrison, he's almost like a poison chalice.
He's like the boogeyman right now, isn't he? Yeah.
It's almost one of the. It's like a football team when the team's not doing as well. They'll just they'll just change the manager because it's the easiest thing to change out. Yep. You can't change the whole squad. You can't change the ownership very easily. So what's the one thing that you can change quickly? The head. Yeah. So it might not be a bad idea for Google to look at and go, thanks for your work, Phil. We're gonna go get Jose Mourinho. He's going to do all right for 2 years, and it's all going to implode after that.
I think I can just see a world though already where what you've just said happens, and instantly every single media outlet within the gaming industry just jumps on. Stadia's failing, Stadia's dying. Phil Harrison is jumping ship before the women and children.
You have to have the right person in play.
Yeah.
You have to have the right name, otherwise, if you just got... That's why I jokingly say, Reggie, if Stadia announced Phil's gone, Reggie's in, that's a positive probably spins. Like, oh my God, Reggie's back in video games.
Yeah.
And he's went to Stadia. It's like...
Yeah, and those stories need to be timed at the same time. You can't have Phil leave and then 2 weeks of silence and then announce it, because all the stories are going to be crazy. But obviously, we're speculating on someone's career here, so we'll wind that down. Hopefully, Phil's fine. I'm sure he's cash rich enough to retire in happiness after all his big jobs. But a couple of other lists in there, they say in the articles, like Corey May was back from the Assassin's Creed franchise, has gone with Jade, lead writer and creative narrative director on numerous projects. A bunch of other people as well. Sebastian Puel, who's going to be was Stadia general manager, he's gone over, and the list goes on. But essentially, these are all people who worked with Jade before Stadia, and guess what? They now work with Jade after Stadia.
Yeah, these are all Stadia Games and Entertainment people.
Yeah, like this was announced in February. We just now have a name.
Leaving.
Indeed. So
it may have just took this length of time for Haven to actually get the checks cleared, like from the investors into Haven, so that they can actually guarantee the contracts.
Or to just get to conclude their contracts at Google and Stadia.
Yeah,
exactly. Signing off on another chapter in the Stadia story. Speaking of Stadia stories, though, we'll move the news swiftly on, gentlemen, to the next big one. As part of Richie, you touched on it earlier on, but Epic and Apple, we report this on the podcast, feels like over half a year ago now, probably was at this point. They've been butting heads about the storefront and Apple having a kind of monopoly on the whole digital storefront, which they kind of do, but it's also their storefront, so I don't feel that guilty about it. I don't really want anyone to win in this scenario. Both big, massive conglomerate companies that don't care about us as individuals. I'm not that big on it. They're both throwing money at this court case, but essentially we're getting loads of tasty treats out of it. One of which was Fortnite was apparently offered to Stadia in exchange for Epic to have free access to the Play Store, which sets a whole bad precedence for itself, but just the fact that it was a conversation shows where they kind of these massive deals that impact so much do happen. Who wants to take this one first? Stadia, Fortnite, Epic deals.
Yeah, I just want to throw this back to Tim Sweeney's tweet when asked about Fortnite and Stadia, in which he outright said that the amount of updates that are pushed for Fortnite, it doesn't warrant the manpower to support Stadia there. Whereas this sort of contradicts that a little bit, where they were more than happy to, on the basis of sort of saving or earning more cash, I suppose, in a way, through the Google Play Store.
That's what it comes down to. It comes down to the money. He's probably done his cost benefit analysis and went, it will take this many man hours. Yeah, it is. It will take this many man hours to keep the Stadia version up to date and synced up with the rest of them. This will cost us this much money. We don't think it might even be profitable to do it. It might just not be profitable enough. Yeah. Because bear in mind, I've said this before in this role. It's not just like, well, it's cost this much, it'll cost this much, and you make this much. You have to think this is people away from other tasks as well. Mm-hmm. So, where if they get basically free access to the Play Store, they'll probably go, well, we'll make so much more money there. We can try and use Fortnite as a way of leveraging. We'll lose money on Fortnite and Stadia, but we'll gain it probably on Fortnite on the Play Store.
It's almost the same argument as when you look at new consoles being released, and the fact that, we've said before, and it's common knowledge at this point, that companies don't make money on the console. It's almost like that trade-off in a strange way, isn't it? Except with digital platforms instead.
Yeah, because if companies try to make profit on the console, you're looking at close to PC prices.
Yeah.
I mean, Xbox clarified this week that they've not made profit on a single Xbox console to date, which is, they're always sold at a loss, and Stadia kind of doesn't have that issue, but it's such
30% cut.
It's such an interesting kind of little tidbit that's coming out. And have you guys followed this court case? I'll keep saying stories, but at one point, because we always forget the people who run the jury and the judge, they're not gamers.
Nope.
So some of the stuff that they need to clarify, at one point, as like Exhibit A, they brought out a PlayStation 5 and a Nintendo Switch and asked Mr. Sweeney, can you point to which one of these is this? Can you describe to me what this product is? And he's had to go, that's a PlayStation 5, That's a Nintendo Switch. It's like, this is a multi-millionaire who's made his wealth from the games industry. He stood there pointing out. Imagine if he got it wrong. That's a Wii U. No, sir, Mr. Sweeney, it's not. You're incorrect. Case null and void. Epic can't have.
The thing is, like you mentioned, it begs some questions. Like, if you're on a jury, like, I know juries may be completely impartial, but if you have no knowledge of the industry and say very much this is an industry case, this is not common. This is not like criminal law. It's common law that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
If you don't have a clue what the people are talking about, you're talking about Fortnite on apples and stuff, and like you're going, what's a Fortnite?
Well, the Fortnite's usually how long you need.
2 weeks.
It's how long you need to take off for jury duty, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, how do you make like a smart judgment?
But this is what boils down to like the court case. Like the defense need to essentially create an education lesson on the subject matter for the jury. So like this is literally a PlayStation, a Switch. Epic is a store which sells the game, and they need to explain all that and then win their case, which is why they're bringing all sorts of like weird documents out that kind of shine a light behind the curtain. I've seen this week Phil Spencer from Microsoft actively talking about bringing Game Pass to more consoles, and that sparked flames around going, we could see it on the Nintendo Switch or something. Imagine Game Pass being on Stadia as like a subscription service.
But you say that, but we've already theorized the idea of getting Stadia onto other systems as well. So it's not that far-fetched because it's clearly, if the model works, you can put it out onto other platforms and you're onto a bit of a winner there, because you could say, theoretically, it's a bit weirder, in my opinion, to see something like Xbox Game Pass on other platforms, like on a Nintendo or on a PlayStation, when you see them as direct rivals compared to Stadia.
I don't think Xbox do see them as direct rivals. I think that with the last console generation, they've changing the business model. I think that I've theorized before that Xbox are moving away from physical consoles, which is the point of xCloud, and I think that will happen over this generation. I think potentially in the PS6 era, you might see Xbox just as an app on your PlayStation rather than as a box under your TV.
I'll be very interested to see what the haters on Twitter then come out to say when they talk about video game ownership in that basis. Then, when all of the Xbox fanboys suddenly,
that would literally be the best of both worlds, because I can have my awesome PlayStation exclusives and then the power of Game Pass to back it up.
Yeah. I'm waiting for that big title.
We're going to get into that argument again.
Yeah, it's a big one. Speaking of big arguments, though, just to touch on it while we wrap up this week's podcast as well, gentlemen, the Epic and Apple trial brought out some interesting figures about, you touched on it, Richie, earlier, how much money Epic spent to get exclusives on their Epic Games platform for PC. We're talking numbers of 146 million for Borderlands 3 is a PC exclusive. They had a 1.5 million deal for the Batman Arkham Collection to give away for free. 1.5 million. Now, there's a little story I want to link that back to, because if you recall, Stadia paid 10 million for Resident Evil 7 to be ported and Resident Evil Village to be ported. 10 million, which was, if you remember the journalists, the articles at the time were saying, oh, Stadia's paying money to get games on their platform. They made a big song and dance out of it. Just to reiterate, Epic, 1.5 million for Batman Arkham Collection. Like, I know the return on investment is very different because they're looking to create... Actually, no, it's not different, is it? That Stadia are trying to get a user base as well.
Yeah.
It's the same model. Like, they're two companies that want to create a user player base, and guess what? They have to spend money to make money. Epic just seem willing to spend more at this particular moment in time.
Epic are being propped up at the moment, well, by two things, Fortnite and Unreal. Mm-hmm. Is it Unreal that Epic owns?
Yeah.
But they're trying to get a store from running on PC to be the PC store where Steam cleans up. And so they just throw money at it. And they'll see it as a long-term investment. So yeah, we're spending all this money now, but we're slowly taking away the market share away from Valve. Mm-hmm. And then eventually this will start becoming profitable in its own right. It's
what Stadia need to do, right?
It's kind of business 101. Like, if the basic business, you start a market stall, you go to a wholesaler, you buy some stuff, you make an investment, then you sell your things.
It's like The Apprentice.
Yeah, and sometimes it's and then you get customers, then customers keep coming back, then customers bring other people. That's what they're doing here. like they're trying to get customers using their platform, and to do that, you need to have things to sell.
Mm-hmm. So to tie this all back in with Stadia, then, gentlemen, with them closing Stadia Games Entertainment, they know that was going to be a good couple $100 million per year to make this one AAA game or two AAA games. Is that money then repurposed to things like this? Like, realistically, 1.5 million Warner Brothers got for Batman Arkham Collection, old games.
Yeah.
That's 1.5 million. A AAA game costs over 100 million. Google can afford that to doss out to these different companies, right? Like, this needs to be what they need to do, as point in case by Epic, to get the user base in.
Yeah.
But are they willing to?
One thing we need to look at is, I believe with that 100 million plus on Borderlands 3, they actually made that money back very easily through the sales on the store as well. Whereas the deal for Resident Evil with the 10 million there, they, we'd have to sort of look at the numbers in hindsight of what they made on Resident Evil 8. And then you've got to offset the cost of the controllers and so on that they gave away for free too. It's an interesting one because at the moment Google is still trying to build up their user base. I don't think they will have been able to recuperate the 10 million.
No.
Bear in mind, 7 was a pro game as well, so
yeah.
I think most users have got that on pro as part of the pro subscription rather than. So they'll make some money.
I think 7 was a write-off though in terms of what they get for the 10 mil.
It's possible they got the 10 million, but I don't think that they were pushing to make this a way of They're not. I don't think if I'm Google, I'm not going looking at the state of the platform and going, I'm not expecting a profit off this now. Okay. This is an investment for the future. We may break even.
Let's. I'm just going to do a quick bit of number crunching very, very quickly. If we say it was about £65, wasn't it, for Resident Evil 8?
Yeah.
For the pre-order right there. So if we need 10 million, so that's probably, let's call it about $80 for it, something along the lines of that, if we were to compare it directly. So we're probably looking about, they'd need to shift 125,000 units. 125,000. So that's how many sales they would need to make of Resident Evil 8 to recuperate that 10 mil. 125,000.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't seem unreasonable in a global
It doesn't
market,
seem unreasonable, no.
Yeah.
No.
But again, I think it's you said, Richie, spend money to make money. I don't think anything Stadia, Google put out there to get these ports, these games, these deals, they've got to look at making a loss on these for probably a good couple of years until they get the user base up to a point where it's profitable. And again, fingers crossed, the guys over at Google are not stupid and they're going to think, oh, we can do this on a shoestring budget. Marketing doesn't work like that. You can spend millions on just TV adverts alone, which we'll probably talk about in our SideQuest episode this week about money and spending and stuff.
Yeah, going all the way back to the start of Google Stadia, I think one of the things that got us interested in the platform is that it is propped up by Google. Google have the money, they have the resources to make this work.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, you look at Shadow. Shadow became a victim of their own success.
Yep.
They just couldn't generate the income to support the service at the rate it was growing.
I think that's why we have an innate positivity around it, because they have the money. This isn't, like you said, this isn't propped up by a startup company. This is Google, one of the richest companies in the world. The only one, I think, outside in the same kind of stratosphere that isn't playing this game is Apple at the moment. Apple have such. I read something the other day. Apple's cash reserves are more than Sony. Sony's existence. Apple could buy the entirety of Sony with just their cash reserves. That's not revenue and profit. That's just what they've got in the bank to burn, and it wouldn't even put a dent in that. Google and Microsoft are kind of the other two big ones, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's rare that businesses have that level of cash reserves. It's just not usually how businesses run.
No, I'm curious what their plan is for that money. World domination, something, or you're sitting on that much cash. That's sum it up.
The Apple icon.
To round out my thoughts, one of the reasons I'm still optimistic about Stadia is they're still investing in things that are designed to bring people to the platform.
Yeah.
And they need to keep
While
doing
that's happening, that means that's showing the commitment to the platform.
But Richie, John Justice left. That means everything's gone, right? checkbook's ripped up. Nothing's happening because
World's on fire.
Stadia's dead. You heard it here.
Oh, no, you didn't. Don't listen to Richie. Right, let's wrap up this week's news story, gentlemen, with a nice little story came out from our friends over at 9 to 5 Google. Cal Bradshaw doing the Lord's work once again, digging deep into the APK files. And interesting tidbits came out of this week is that you can now, you can use your mobile phone as a controller. So using the touchscreen elements, you can play Stadia on your TV. Because at the moment, so far, you've only ever been able to use an official Stadia controller to play games on the Chromecast. It's apparently going to be a new feature called Bridge Mode, and it allows you to just use your phone, which I think opens the door to new types of genre coming to Stadia, but also
I think this is really, really good. It once again shows Google's investment in this whole idea of being able to play anywhere, any way that you want. And the idea of having using your phone as a controller, even just as like a bridge, it not only just allows you to be able to have anybody in the room jump in and sit down and play a couch co-op game with you or play a party game with you, but it also actually opens it up to even more tethering opportunities. So rather than just using having a Stadia controller there, I said before that it was always kind of weird to me, this idea of if I wanted to play with a specific type of controller but I couldn't connect it to my Chromecast, I'd have to tether it to my Stadia controller. But what if I don't have a Stadia controller? Then it becomes a little bit more convoluted. It becomes a little bit stranger. This opens it up a lot more because now all you need is your phone as a device. And as long as you've got something that you can plug in through the USB port on your phone or the charger port, you should then be able to connect any device to the other end. So that includes the elusive mouse and keyboard combination for Chromecast as well. So
it includes anything that has Bluetooth support for Android, basically.
Essentially.
And so you could use your DualShock 4 via your phone to your Stadia Chromecast.
Yeah. And rather than having
bear in mind, we have TVs now coming with Stadia built in.
Yeah. It seems better to me than having a controller connected to a controller. The idea of having a controller connected to your phone seems a little bit easier to handle to me, or just straight up using Chrome.
I wonder if they're focused on the controller first as a way of testing out this technology, because the controller is standardized. Phones are not. There's many different phones with different Wi-Fi strengths and weaknesses and all that sort of shenaniganry. So they probably went, the controller's the easiest thing to focus on. Let's get the controller working, and then we'll focus on porting this tech to phones.
Plus, they'll have loads of metrics now. They'll have over a year and a half's worth of statistics and ping rates and latency measurements that have came in, so they've literally probably been able to look at it and go, we can do this now. We've done numerous tests across multiple Bluetooth devices. We can do this. Let's push it out. Let's get it going.
Got all the results from those survey feedbacks after every game.
To bring it slightly back to games, I can very much see a scenario. You've just bought your shiny, fancy new LG TV, and there's a Stadia app there. What's this about? And then you got Jackbox, and you got this party games. You've just got access to gaming, these sort of party games. Free, you have people around, have a few drinks, you're playing Jackbox, everyone's got the phones, so that everyone who turns up can engage. You don't need the controllers. And it's just another arm of what Stadia can bring. I think we've all played things like Jackbox, and they're great fun, especially in a more casual environment.
Do we now need to start a new community movement? Because the Jackbox team have said they had no interest in bringing the Jackbox games to Stadia. Do we now need to start a new movement to try to change that?
With this tech, yes, I think so.
I completely agree with that. I think we're at the point now where, as a community, yes, okay, there's people want loads and loads of games on the platform. Fully understand that. But I think to really sort of utilize this sort of play anywhere that you want, and with whoever you want, I think we should really try to push for party games as well now. I think I might jump on that.
What I'm looking at this at the moment is, this is a good target for non-gamers who occasionally dabble in party games when they have people over. And this is why, the audience for this is, how many people have a Chromecast or a smart TV where Stadia can be ported onto? And then you jump in with your friends because you got this new TV, you see the app, you want to try it out. Because who doesn't, when you get the new TV, you're clicking on all the apps to see what they all do.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, cool, there's some games here. Then you get playing them, and then you're invested in the platform.
Relating to the Jackbox games as well, is you need your device connected to Wi-Fi, right?
Yeah.
To play. Yeah. Like for Stadia, you're already linked to Wi-Fi through the app and everything. So it would just be a matter of changing the inputs to represent the Jackbox options as opposed to like a controller, maybe. So it's surely just about repurposing your taps as opposed to anything massive.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I imagine it will work exactly the way as PlayLink does on PlayStation.
Yeah.
You turn up, there's your link, you code, you have the Jackbox app, or in this case, it'll probably be your Stadia app on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
You type the thing, you're connected, then you play.
Good stuff.
I just think it's more sales for Jackbox. Like, I don't see it being a loss for them in any way whatsoever. I think people would buy the game. And I think people would play the games.
But it would allow people to play.
If Jackbox came to Stadia, we're streaming it.
We absolutely would.
But outside of that, it would allow people to play the games without owning a console. And that's the thing, it's like casual. Like I've had people around who've played the game, but then don't own the game when they go back to their own home. And I've had them text me saying, what was that game we played at yours last weekend? Can I get it on whatever other console they have or whatever? And a lot of people don't have games consoles in the house, but they enjoy when they go around their friends and they play these type of party games. And this would be a good outlet for being able to play it without the need of a 200, 300, 400 pound box under your TV.
Yeah, we talked on the EA episode of SideQuest about like the casual gamers, those who don't want to invest in a platform. Stadia is perfect for them. Google just needs to reach them somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the hardcore gamers, the hardcore platform entrenched gamers, they're a hard sell because you're comparing, like, if you're a Sony fan, you get like all the Sony consoles like myself. It's a very hard sell to go, do you want Stadia when I've got PlayStation? Because actually, I did, out of curiosity, I looked at Shadow of the Tomb Raider over the weekend on both Stadia and PS5, and it's noticeably better on PS5. So that makes it a hard sell for Stadia when the quality drop.
Yeah, of course.
So it's like, I've got PS5 sat there, what do I need this for?
Or a Jackbox game.
But if you're, as we mentioned, something like Jackbox or The Sims or PC gaming, where if you don't want to fork out £8 billion for a graphics card at the moment, if you can even get your hands on one, it's like, I want to play the new Age of Empires. I haven't played Age of Empires in years. I'd love to play it, but I don't have a PC. Oh, wait a sec, I can play it on Stadia. Done.
Well, it's Microsoft Studios, so
I've got, yeah. But it was a bad example. I just reached for a strategy game.
It does look good, though. It does look good. But they did put out a lovely little. There's going to be a little new icon with it, which is a controller and a phone. And the dinosaur game, Richie, the long-awaited dinosaur game, we've all been wanting on Stadia is a nice little like indie darling, that racing dinosaur game. Two-player dinosaur jumping game is what they're promoting now. Looks lovely.
Yeah.
Nice.
But that, everybody, brings us to the end of the news and the end of episode 85 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in, listening, watching this week for it's for probably one of the longest episodes we've done in a while, actually. We're probably 1 hour 23 mark right now, gentlemen. So
yeah, there's
lots to talk about.
Lots,
there is indeed, yeah. We've talked Jedis, we've talked Judgement, we've talked Justice, leaving Stadia, and Jackbox. There's just another one. It's the
Jedi, Justice.
This episode is sponsored by the letter J. Sesame Street. But thank you, everyone.
For next week, where we're sponsored by the letter K.
What game start with
KFC are making a gaming console?
What?
That's actually true.
Kine wins the best Stadia Pro game of all time vote.
Apparently, Kine is better than we give it. So
I know we give it shit.
We're sleeping on that.
I know we're such hypocrites. But thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in for episode number 85. Don't forget, if you haven't done so already, do click like down below. Do subscribe to the channel and click that bell so you are kept in the loop with all things Sounds of Stadia, like our live streams coming up this week. We're going to be checking out Resident Evil Village playthrough for your enjoyment, probably my lack of enjoyment once again as we get jump scared to hell this Wednesday, 8 p.m. British Standard Time, of course available on demand after the fact. Don't forget the podcast is available on audio podcasts, as well as youtube.com/Sounds of Stadia. You can go get that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, and all the other platforms out there. There's like 1,000,001, guys, podcast platforms.
Yeah.
Some that we probably were on, we don't even know exist, but we're there. We're there.
Yeah.
And SideQuest this week, Richie, we're going to record this now. Our members get this up to 5 days early. So 99p, click join below on the YouTube link, and you get perks like badges, stickers, exclusive discounts. No, there's not exclusive discounts. There's not going to actually sell yet.
Something in the future.
Maybe in the future, yeah. I do have a plan for our members for long term, but it's all hush-hush, secret at the moment. But yeah, Richie, we're going to go away talk on SideQuest now about... Do you want to remind the people before they go?
We talk about Stadia's pandemic problems.
Ooh. Everyone's pandemic problems.
Yeah,
but it's easing now. So thanks for everyone for tuning in. Wrapping up. My name's been Chris.
I've been Tom.
I've been Richie.
We've been Sounds of Stadia. Have a great week. Game on, everyone. Catch you soon. Bye.